Good morning, Parma, friends and colleagues. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you may be joining us online. It gives me great pleasure, and it is a major privilege for me personally to be able to introduce you to the Regeneration 2030 pledge on behalf of a fantastic group of individuals and organizations here present or joining us online. Regeneration 2030 is a positive vision for the future, one that is needed to be able to build back better in the post-COVID era and to be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in time of 2030. So let me delve into what we mean by the pledge. The pledge is simple and to the point, but is very deep, and we'll have a deep dive into the three main concepts throughout the conference. Our pledge is the following, is that together we commit to act as a regenerative force and to systematically create the conditions conducive to life, happiness, and well-being for all. What this comes down to is that we commit to putting happiness and well-being measures at the core of policymaking across organizations and nations, supplementing potentially, or at least complementing, traditional measures of GDP. So to move beyond GDP as its core, and it means also that we commit to achieving and contributing to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals in time. These concepts of the pledge and regeneration do not live in isolation from one another. They build on one another, not necessarily in a linear fashion, as you can see, but in a dynamic fashion between them. So the vision is clear. Why are we doing this? It is because we want to aspire to happy and high well-being levels for all living beings. The strategy to get there is through regenerative action. And what does that entail? Well, it entails climate action, amongst other things. This pledge, as I noted, is dynamic because these concepts do not necessarily live in a linear way. I heard Andrea Illy this morning already talk about the interaction between the two main concepts of well-being and sustainability, and we have some new research to also bring empirical evidence to that absolutely correct statement. And so, even though it is an early morning here in Parma, I do wish to work with you through one single academic slide to hopefully build and provide some evidence for that statement that happiness and sustainability go hand in hand. This is brand new work by Jeffrey Sachs and myself, was published this year in Nature Scientific Reports and in the World Happiness Report. What you see here is the first global empirical evidence for the link between sustainability and human well-being. On the horizontal axis, what you see is the Sustainable Development Goal Index score. It is a degree to which countries are achieving the SDGs. And it runs from 0 to 100. And there's quite some variation in the extent to which people are pursuing sustainable development. On the vertical axis, you're seeing our measure, which we use for the World Happiness Report, of human well-being. That is to say, for every country in the world, we have a measure for how people, representative samples in each country, self-report their happiness or well-being on a scale from 1 to 10. This is an incredible effort thanks to the Gallup organization, who ask representative samples in each country to get a population sense for how happy they feel about their lives, the quality of their lives. If you put these two things together, you see one thing which is obvious. There's a strong empirical correlation between the two. So happier, a more sustainable development goes hand in hand with a happier society. That may not come across to you as very surprising, perhaps, or rather intuitive to begin with, but if you look more carefully, there's some interesting dynamics that are really rather revolutionary and fit and underpin the regeneration concept. The trend line is not linear. If you look carefully, you see it's increasing. It's what we call a convex relationship. That is critically important. It means that with higher levels of economic development, it is sustainability that allows societies to translate further growth into higher well-being. So the relationship becomes stronger and stronger the higher you are on economic development. Anybody familiar with the same graph but linking well-being to GDP will know that the relationship is not convex but concave. So rather than increasing marginal returns, what you find with GDP is diminishing marginal returns to growth in terms of human well-being. So for rich nations to pursue a growth for the sake of growth agenda, the classic GDP agenda, they will not see further growth translate into further well-being. The only way, and that's what these data show you, the only way to be able to increase the well-being of already rich societies or industrialized developed nations is through sustainable growth, and thus achieving the SDGs. That, I think, is a very positive view that derives from this empirical analysis. The deep dive into the happiness and well-being aspects of the Regeneration 2030 pledge comes down to the notion that we pledge to contribute to improving the happiness and well-being of all living beings, whether they are within or outside of our organizations and in our personal and social lives. To reach that goal, we commit to measuring and reporting on the happiness and well-being of our stakeholders, to embrace inclusivity, tolerance, and equality for all, and to foster gratitude as an attitude and a way to reaching that goal. I very much hope that you will join us in pledging to these principles and to achieving regeneration and the SDGs by 2030. I believe that now we will have a poll for people in the room or online that will ask you a few questions about the extent to which you're willing to come along with us and pledge to Regeneration 2030. Thank you.